that this industry is not only asset to India, but to the whole world. And thanks to the contribution by all of you in the manufacturing, quality, distribution, supply chain, and the sales organization who are making sure that the medicines are produced, they are reached, and are available to the world at large. Also, I would like to highlight that we are keeping highest emphasis on the safety of our employees and the kind of practices which are being followed by all of you for the safety of employees again have been the benchmark. In fact, we were having meeting with the Secretary Health uh, around 15 days back, and we are having meeting with the Secretary DOP, new Secretary. All of them have recognized the contribution of IPA and particularly all of you. So thank you very much. This future of work has been a great area, and I would like to thank Rahul and the whole BCG team who have been working on the future of work. So one objective which we set for ourselves on 23rd March, when the whole pandemic was announced, lockout was announced, that the first job is that we should be able to ensure sustainable supply of medicine, quality medicines, and with the safety of the employees. And second, how do we prepare ourselves for the future? And a lot of work has been going on. And then BCG said that they will do work on future of work. And Shirish has been leading that agenda. We started with commercial excellence, went on to manufacturing, quality control, and now we are doing for corporate affairs. So it is great work which has been, how does the world changes and how the future of work will change? That's the objective of this exercise. And it has been such a great idea that SAP and BCG are coming together on this platform. And we are saying because this future of work, technology is going to be playing a very important role. So SAP team and BCG is coming together. It's a pioneering initiative together, and it will go a long way with technology, with the conceptual understanding, getting it together, it will get transformation. With this, I will stop and hand over to Shirish, and thank you once again to the entire manufacturing team and to Shirish and the group which is leading it. Thank you. Over to you,
Thank you,
Shirish.
Sudarshan. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining the session on technological session on the future of manufacturing. See, many of you have attended the earlier session, which is done by the BCG on the future of manufacturing. And it was based on the study undertaken with the different companies, and the knowledge gained from that was presented as a future of manufacturing. But that was on conceptual level. Today, what we are going to do is actually how there were a lot of questions being raised by many people, how to do it. And probably today's session is the answer to that. We'll be looking at the technology partners who are going how to implement those things what we have talked in the future of quality. And I think we have got very eminent panel today. Mandar Paralkar from the SAP, Sham Afzalpurkar from the Performix, Kahal Strain from Neo PLM, Vipul Joshi from Honeywell, and Shrikant Nistane from Crave Infotech. They will give us the details. And I think I request, I think he joining today. Rahul is joining. No, not doesn't look to be there. Okay, so I will hand it over to the Rajesh to introduce all the speakers in detail, and then we can start the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain. Thank you, Mr. Belapuri. It is indeed a pleasure to be part of this evening, to host this evening, where we discuss technology imperatives in the future of work in manufacturing. Thanks to IPA, BCG, and the industry leaders on the call today for this opportunity. My name is Rajesh Kupaswamy. I am part of the Digital Transformation Office at SAP India and work as an advisor to the life sciences and healthcare industry. As Shirish mentioned briefly, we have an impressive list of speakers today. Mandar Paralkar, who is a global VP and head of Life Sciences America, will start the session with an introduction to life sciences practice at SAP. He will talk about our product development strategy and how we work with a large pool of partners globally to ensure that we have the right solution available for our clients globally. Among our partners, we have 4 organizations represented today. Vipul Joshi, who heads the pharmaceuticals and chemicals team at Honeywell India, will address the data strategy and its relevance in manufacturing. That will then be followed by Kahal Strain from NeoPLM and Sham Afzalpurkar from Performix, who will talk about process standardization and simplification. Kahal is an industry veteran with about 32 years of experience, first having worked in the industry and then as a consultant to the industry. Sham has worked across various functions in his 25 plus years of association with the industry. And then we wrap up the session with Shrikant Nistane from Crave Infotech, who will talk about the importance of asset management. What we have done in today's session is the 5 pillars that were charted out by BCG as part of the future of work strategy in manufacturing. We will take 3 of them as vertical pillars, the one on data, the one on process standardization and simplification, and the one on assets. And then the other 2 will be kind of covered as horizontal. So the team which covers these 3 vertical pillars will make reference to the control tower, will make reference to whatever else is called out in BCG stack. So that's the format and agenda for today. While sharing the best practices, the speakers will also talk about war stories and lessons learned so that it can help us understand how we can be smart about during our execution journey. And then towards the end, I'll wrap up the session. You have an opportunity to post questions. So I will take those questions and share them with the speakers towards the end for their views. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Mandar to get us started. Mandar, go ahead. While you start, I will share my screen.
Sounds good. Thank you everybody for this opportunity for SAP to present our point of view along with the partners. And it's great to work with Indian Pharma Association as well as various customers, how we can help during this COVID and pandemic situation. My role in the SAP is a global VP for life sciences. I have teams based in US, Europe, and good to work collaboratively via Rajesh with this team. Today, I focus on primarily understanding the industry requirements, working with various regulatory agencies, try to understand what are the pain points and challenges that our customers face in pharma, biotech, and med device companies, and accordingly work with our product development teams to roll in those requirements so that our next generation products really meet the challenges that our biopharma customers are facing. And what we are going to talk today is a high-level strategy, how SAP goes to the market. So with that, I want to talk about the slide that you see here is our vision around industry cloud strategy. So if you look at SAP as a technology company, we start with the foundation at the bottom called as SAP's cloud platform. That's the business technology platform, which has all the applications, our flagship product like S/4HANA. We have also areas like supply chain planning and procurement. So whether we develop in-house or we have acquired companies, we have a cloud portfolio that can help our life sciences industry. And it is important to understand that the new business models in the industry are changing very rapidly. So we need to be agile and adaptive, as well as work with our partner ecosystem, which have a good insight and work with customers very closely that can help SAP innovate faster. So if you look at the middle section, it's all about, on one hand, we have our intelligence suite, which is the next generation ERP, which consists of primarily solutions around order to cash and procure to pay. And those are depicted at the top, business processes. As we see a lot of customers, especially in the COVID situation, employees working remotely, even though it's looking at the quality of the product on the shop floor, some of the decisions are made remotely. So it's important to see how we deliver the future IT solutions that meets the needs of the customer. And a lot of learnings as we see in the disruptions in the supply chain with the pandemic situation, whether it is on the HR side with the employee, it is on the R&D side with a lot of collaborations happening with the industry, or its core supply chain and manufacturing capacity constraints that needs to be addressed. And it's good to have a lot of pharma companies in India trying to build volumes that can help us, but also the industry overall looks at alternative source of suppliers that can meet the needs of various countries as well. So with this dynamics in place, how can SAP and partners create that modular applications that help time to value? And the key thing what we are learning is, as we try to document where SAP's strengths are and where we need to listen to our customers, we identify areas, we call it as white spaces. So when you talk about white spaces, these are the areas definitely surrounding our comfort zone where SAP has dominated certain solutions in the past. But we understand that certain areas which our customers need today, we quickly need to partner with a strong ecosystem. And that's what we are going to cover in this next slide. We talk about a central digital core in the middle, which you see in the box. And SAP's life sciences strategy is primarily focusing on three things: how to improve the customer outcomes. Our customer can be starting with the patient and hospitals. We also deliver products to the wholesalers and 3PLs and retail pharmacies. So customer can be a different type. The spend category can be different as we compete as an ecosystem with new IT entrants in the market, right? So it's important that the middle section, which is talking about the digital supply chain and smart factory, how do we focus on industry topics like next generation 4.0, certain intelligent technologies that can reinforce compliance and validation on one hand, which is very key to our industry. And on the other hand, we still need to improve operational excellence, reduce the cost, and ensure that we have improved efficiencies as well. So what you see in this slide is the box in the middle is all about digital core, intelligent enterprise. We call it S4HANA from a product perspective. And it covers certain R&D, PLM aspects, technology transfer to manufacturing. It covers alternative source of supplies and whole sourcing and procurement. We cover manufacturing, certain batch records, and also manage the sales and service aspects. But the key here is, if you look at the arrows going into the blue box, we definitely have, over a period of time, acquired certain solutions like Ariba and Hybris for B2B commerce. And all those cloud-based solutions definitely integrate very well with our digital core. The key message here is that as we build more, during the pandemic situation, we have seen a lot of net new customers who try to collaborate with the bigger pharmas are coming on SAP's cloud platform as an example. So we definitely have a public cloud, but we also have a private cloud instance that can help your solutions in your own control, that can be managed to support cloud compliance aspects with the right data centers in place. So we need partners on the technology front, we need partners on the application side, and we also look forward for partners as a part of this cloud strategy to help in this network play, how to connect and collaborate as an ecosystem. And with that, I want to talk about this next slide, where what exactly I mean by innovation, right? Let me just start from the bottom, right? So the SAP Digital Core, typically all the order to cash financials, manufacturing data, we call it as a system of record. And it has supporting 21 CFR Part 11. We support electronic signatures and records. So we have digital signature logs, all the good things. Why we call it as a system of record? Because it supports compliance, validation efforts through V model. But then if you look at the next practices, right? The system of differentiation is the incremental innovation that SAP does in order to meet the requirements that the industry is looking for. But as I said, right, SAP also has capacity constraints. We work for 25 industries. And whenever we create certain business cases for pharma, life sciences, we definitely need to justify some business value associated with it. And a lot of the new developments, as an example, PLM recipe development or certain toll manufacturing, subcontracting manufacturing processes, predictive quality. These are the topics which are very relevant for Indian pharma companies. I consider this as an incremental enhancement as a part of the system of differentiation. When you look at the system of innovation, that is where exactly we need partners to help us, because time is of the essence. Our customers need something quick. They need to meet their business challenges, adapting to the new business models in the industry. And that's exactly want to share with you. These are just a few areas which we have highlighted as a white spaces. And the way we look this vertical edge expanding is, think about development R&D areas, right? We are more comfortable to work in the D side of the house with clinical supply management or development operations, but we still don't have a development batch record in the pharma or a design history file in the medical devices. But that's where we'll see today's partner Carl and Sham talking about how they can help to move the data from development into core manufacturing. When you look at core manufacturing, it's all about how to create the electronic batch record that can be audited by FDA and other agencies from different countries. And the key thing is, in SAP Digital Core, we have capabilities around product segmentations. We all use batch characteristics today, but product attributes is new capabilities that can capture product market compliance data, how the filings are done, and accordingly use those product attributes as a part of the manufacturing and distribution process. Simple example is country of origin, or what manufacturing resource or equipment you're using in the manufacturing process. Even that needs to be documented for the filings in order to ensure the product quality and patient safety aspects. Customer field service might not be the topic for today because of the field service nature. However, plant maintenance is very important for Indian pharma companies, where calibration and aspects around machines that are used to create solid liquid dosage, those topics are very important, which Shrikant will cover, how our partners add value over and above our intelligent asset management capabilities. So it will be very interesting conversation today to look into exactly what our partners come up with ideas to plug these white spaces. And the key point I want to reinforce is these vertical solutions are important for us to invest with our partner ecosystem. And the future of the industry is outcome-based reimbursement. So it's all about sharing the risk between pharma manufacturers, the health insurance, as well as the hospitals, right? And the pharma companies are creating certain packages for hospitals to consider in order to boost their market share. That's the business side of it. But on the other hand, even the hospitals which are working tirelessly to help patients and meet their expectations, working with the government agencies, what we are going to see a big transformation, that in order to help to reduce the overall cost in the health sciences value chain, we need to focus on purpose-built solutions. And that's where partners add a lot of value with this high-value vertical solution. But last but not the least is interoperability between the SAP and the partner solutions. That's important. And again, it's a start with the industry cloud strategy. We understand that we are learning from the current pandemic situation, and a lot of the integration touch points will be built over a period of time as we work closely with the partners. So today you see here around 5 partners we want to bring to the table that can help the needs of Indian pharma companies. And we have a broader ecosystem. As appropriate, we'll be happy to work with Rajesh and SAP India team to meet additional needs outside the manufacturing supply chain, whether you want to invest in customer side of the house, how the sales rep can connect with the doctors prescribing certain medication. So those are the areas outside the scope today, but just want to keep you informed that as appropriate, we'll be happy to work through Rajesh and team to meet the needs of our customers. So with that, I just want to hand over back to Rajesh. And based on the time constraints, I might not be available, but happy to take any follow-up action items and work towards meeting your expectations. Any questions, or Rajesh, back to you.
Thanks, Mandar. We will take questions on the chat and we will bring them back towards the end of the session. So Vipul, you can go ahead and get us started on the first session on data strategy.
Let me know once you are able to see the slide. Is it visible now?
Yeah, Vipul.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can see.
Just a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much, Rajesh and Mr. Bellapure to introduce, and then arranging a session like this. Thanks to IPA for giving an opportunity to speak on the important topic of data strategy. And I'm going to speak on the manufacturing angle part of it, that how that data can be captured right from the varied data sources across the plant shop floor. Because unless we talk about all the cloud strategy or even say data intelligence on the top, but then unless we have data captured from the bottom in a very comprehensive manner, it's going to be a challenge ultimately to reach to the goal which we we are looking at. So I always believe that if you know the underlying challenges which are there in terms of the data part of it, it's something where means once we understand the challenges, probably we have a means to kind of mitigating that, and as well as there is a way to kind of up the game and then meet the kind of solutions what we are looking at ultimately. So if you look at this picture where person is standing and then kind of bogged down between the amount of data coming from all the corners of the plant, where means there are various separate systems available, and then like maybe say DCS or even say your sensors across the plant, as well as maybe MES or LIMS or ERP and so on and so forth. So the ultimate challenge here is that means what to do with the data which is coming in, and then how do we really mean that data for the betterment of the overall organizations. And I firmly believe that the challenges this individual is facing or is seen into the picture is no different either for the organizations there in at least I would say India Pharma. So data is coming from all the corners, within the plant, and then engineers typically spend too much of a time, extracting the or getting the data from various sources, and many a times, these data are of various forms and factors. There are various tools available to kind of to analyze that. So those are again inconsistent. So the output which we typically get out of those tools is also not really kind of aligned. Maybe a classic example, if there is some unplanned deviation has arisen into plant, and there is a kind of RC, root cause, basically has to be done for that. So typically people go for a data hunt that where this problem has really happened, and how do we really understand that what is the root cause behind it, and that's where the real problem starts. So people start looking at various parameters across, and then probably try to collect that and then try to mean something out of it. And that's where the real bottleneck lies, that means whether first thing is that it's pretty time consuming, it is pretty complex as well. Sometimes you don't even reach to the exact reason. You might speculate on something and then probably you are incorrect in terms of the remedial action which you are taking. So these are some of the typical challenges people face in terms of if the data is not properly captured in a I would say planned fashion. And specifically, if you look at again India Pharma evolvement, or even say the journey through which India Pharma has come through at this stage, there are a lot of brownfield facilities as well, where means now the manufacturers are looking at towards automating that, and then trying to bring some kind of an integration, and then ultimately kind of get the data to some layer and then do some decision making based on it. So that's where a good amount of planning is required. And another angle which again we are, I would say again, it's not so good for India is that, and you can look at the chart below, which I just tried to pick out from some public domain data available. In terms of data integrity, kind of citations as well as the warning letters issued with respect to the countries. And if you look at between 2015 to 2018, China, US, India is topping the chart. And there is also one observation somewhere, saying that almost like 80% of those problems which is arising there in the field, or even say those warning letters, etc., is contributing to, or even say it is attributable to basically data integrity kind of challenges. So data integrity is a first part through which, means the data collection or data integration starts, and then finally you get the data at one level, and then onwards, means there is a kind of means of making a platform, and then doing some kind of an intelligent analysis on top of that. So having said about the challenges, the next part which I wanted to kind of focus upon is the need to improvise. And if you look at these challenges which we spoke in the previous slide, I think the collection of and storing of the data is definitely very, very important. And if you look at some of the formulations facilities, or even biopharma, specifically in the upstream and downstream part of it, where fill finish kind of an operations are happening, it is basically islands of automation. And there are separate data sources coming from different manufacturers and different kind of an automation systems what they might be using. Their compliance structures are also kind of different. So there is a huge amount of disparity lies, and then we need to kind of get that together into some kind of a standardization. So data mapping becomes utmost important in that case. And ultimately, once you have the data, then the next layer in terms of the prediction, detection, or even nowadays, as the industry buzzword about industry 4.0 is going on, it talks about data analytics in a predictive and prescriptive manner. And people wanted to kind of even know the problem before even it is likely to happen. So that is only that is possible only if means we have a means of storing that, retaining that, maintaining that, and there is also some kind of a disaster recovery principle also made around it. So the entire data governance plan, right from generation till the complete cycle which I spoke about, has to be maintained, and that's pretty important. So one of the use case, in fact, I wanted to kind of speak about, where customer, rather, many customers comes to us and says that we wanted to implement digitization 4.0, or maybe industry 4.0, or pharma 4.0. There are varieties of names, being used, and how to really go about it. So the definition of this industry 4.0 is different for different customers. And if you really look at the way people start, sometimes they start at shop floor, some people started middle layer systems like PLC, DCS, SCADA, etc. Some people started even at top, in terms of the enterprise systems. So one of the good approach which I personally feel, and then which ISP has tried to kind of give an answer to, is about a model which is based on the Pharma 4.0, which is still under development, but it is available for public consumption there in their ISP's website also, and through various ISP forums and webinars also people can realize that. So it essentially talks about the 4 buckets in which the entire data or even the good practices lies. And the enablers are basically, data integrity by design, and the maturity level, digital maturity level, which basically customer want to attain. So, and then, if for all of those 4 buckets, if someone is implementing, it ultimately helps towards, achieving the, goal towards, reliability, security, compliance, or productivity, which might be the parameters for any key customer. And then, that ultimately helps towards, top quartile performance enablement. And if you look at each of this bucket in detail, because that typically defines, in terms of, where they can begin. And I'm just trying to correlate this with one of the use case where customer had told us that what you want to do. And then these 4 areas, we try to kind of define the various things. So just to begin with, say resources, for example. So any manufacturing organization have these 3 elements, basically human, materials, and equipment are the key resources. And human in terms of their training and right person at right place and etc. Electronic signatures, the complete I would say upkeep of training culture etc. into that organization is pretty important. And then which are those systems available towards keeping that or even keeping your track of it. It's very, very important. From a material perspective, the material management part of it, the material genealogy part of it, the reconciliation of material within the plant, and then knowing that what exactly lying or what exactly is being charged into the process. That's very, very important. So gone are the days when people did not have a exact or I would say right information of the materials or what is there in the quarantine. But now people want to look at all of those or other traceability of that material also within the plant. And equipment is again from a traceability or tracking perspective. So equipment maintenance, equipment cleaning, equipment kind of records or the calendar basically. When are the equipments going to be used? What are the usages or even the patterns under which the equipment is getting utilized? So all of those things from a resourcing perspective is very important. If we talk about information systems, so I think it's self-explanatory, but then all these ecosystems, which is the enablers or even say controlling elements in terms of data, which is coming from various shop floor, I would say devices or the equipments, it has to be managed through subsystems like DCS, PLC, SCADA, or even safety and security solutions or enterprise historian and so on and so forth. Culture is the biggest part because that's where again I would like to quote example of a customer where the challenge was that they said that while we want to go for systems like MES or even say some digitization system, but our shop floor people are maybe say 10 pass, 12 pass, maybe graduates and like that. So whether they can handle this kind of an intelligent systems. And the typical challenge here was to kind of really train them. So there was a good amount of handholding exercise was done even before this rollout of the those systems was planned. And in that case, there were workshops were done where all these various departments, right from stores or even the manufacturing or the quality, IT, automation, production. So all the people can come together, they can understand that what is the big vision and what are the steps towards it, and then how it has to be, how gradually people can really move from one step to the other. And that's very, very important. So there also there is a role of technology, and this training can be done on a digitization platform, or maybe there might be certifications which can be done through that digitization platforms. We can use the technologies of AR, VR, augmented reality and virtual reality, or digital twins, which is ultimately giving an offline replica of the plant, and people can simulate or people can realize the operations, how it is going to run in the real-time environment, and then people can train their staff over there. So and then finally the organization and the processes, so that also has an important role to play in terms of setting up right first time processes and operations, and which ultimately result towards anytime audit readiness. And all the data which we ultimately rather I would say manage out of this all paradigm change, it ultimately it has to be in the fashion of some kind of an KPI based dashboards, quality dashboards, exception reviews. So ultimately the effort towards scanning through the data should be reduced. So that's where I feel that a real pharma 4.0 or maybe data journey can be realized. So there is also a challenge which is seen from a manufacturing standpoint is towards, if you look at this chart, and then this, I borrowed this chart from the Bioforum digital plant maturity model and assessment tool, which is also available by Bioforum, and then top 20 companies like Pfizer, Merck, Roche, etc. It's participating into that. And there are some automation players also a part of this. And jointly they have defined that what could be a maturity assessment level of an customer premise, and then where they can lie in terms of the digital maturity. So it can begin right from say level 1, where it is a pre-digital plant and then all paper-based and manual processes, which is again a case if we look at in India Pharma, many places, which is basically with some PLC controls and paper-based processes and so on and so forth. The next layer is about digital silos, where some people have done some kind of an automation, and I would say probably this category is quite wider because islands of automation situation lies there typically, and they are having some kind of site-specific systems. Again, there is no single version of truth available or limited integration capability, etc. So still, there are challenges in terms of seeing the data together. If they want to release a batch, again, there is a challenge in terms of, getting the data together, attaching to it, and, releasing the batch with those, these separate data, which is coming from various systems, and release that. The level 3 is something where I would say the buzz is overall going around currently, and people want to move from that digital silos to a connected plant kind of a situation, which if you look at the industry 4.0 versus plotting of this particular model, so it gives you a kind of I would say a complete automation integration and standardization at some form, and then people have implemented MES or some kind of an business system. So we Mandar just displayed that entire ecosystem using SAP. So that again is implemented, or even say there are integrations done with the other ecosystems like SLIMS or some other automation or business information systems available in the plant. And there is a primitive kind of an analytics available at this layer. So basically this layer is giving you a view to what is happening typically in the plant. If you look at the other 2 layers on the top, probably I'll not go much in detail there, but it's predictive and then prescriptive or adaptive, where what is likely to happen once you have the connected plant available, or even say integration already done, and how this actions can be done or taken based on the diagnostic which is available, and how do we avoid any kind of an interruption which is likely to happen in the future, looking at some kind of a deterioration to the signals or sensors, whatever the data which is coming in through some machine learning, through some kind of an artificial intelligence that can be realized. And the last is, I would say too far. Probably I think still people are talking about it. There are good amount of discussions going over there, but it talks about a kind of completely autonomous kind of an plant, where there is a plug and play, complete modularized way of working of the solution, and there is a completely RPA based kind of an philosophy. RPA means robotic process automation I'm talking about here, and end-to-end kind of an integration from I would say raw material to the I would say the entire supply chain towards the part of the patients where the ultimate products are getting delivered. So that's where overall landscaping of a maturity model lies, and then customers can really access that that where exactly they belong to in terms of the digitization journey. And there are some questionnaires also available which can be downloaded from the Bioforum website. It is available for public consumption, and it typically tells you the areas in terms of assessing the maturity, and as well as the kind of automation they want to go to, and also define that where which particular place they belong to. And I think it could be a good start for any kind of an automation or any kind of a digitization journey which customer would like to take further. So as a takeaway on this particular, I would say, slide or this maturity model, I would say that as a minimum, customers should attempt, or even manufacturing teams should at least aim for a connected plant kind of an area where they realize the benefits of right first time operations, or even compliance at a core because of all the integration you are able to see at one place, all inventory optimization, data analytics driven decisions, some kind of an enhanced cyber security kind of an posture, as well as data integrity across all the devices, or even say all the subsystems, what they may have. So that is something as a minimum, I think we should definitely attempt for. That's I think an area we should look for. So moving further, if you look at the complete data journey right from the inception and how that analysis part of it can be carried out and how the intelligence of data can be realized. If you look at all of this ecosystem which has been listed below, these are not exhaustive, but kind of some sample which I have taken just to explain. But these are all, I would say, all different subsystems with a different type of data. I would say structured data or unstructured data, etc. Maybe time series data, or sometimes transactional data. Sometimes even if you look at QMS, for example, there might be PDF files and etc. So basically, people would like to kind of have that collated at one place, and getting there into an on-premise kind of an historian, or maybe say a cloud historian that can be envisaged or devised. And there are connectors available through various mechanisms to kind of get this data. So it could be OPC, or it could be web services or APIs, application interfaces basically. Or there might be even industrial protocols like Modbus or Profibus, or there are various protocols of that kind through which the data can be collected at one place. Maybe I would say to begin with a site level, and then between, I would say, multi-plant kind of a scenario, the data can come at an enterprise layer. And then if we are able to kind of put that data into a cloud environment, so then all of this data is available for the next level of an activity, which is about data mining or data churning. And there are variety of tools available. For example, maybe say statistical modeling or regression, or even say some kind of an primary component analysis, or even say outlier detection or pattern recognition. So these tools basically will give you a possibility in terms of churning the data well, try to put that data into some kind of a fashion, so that we know that what is important and what is probably a typical cause which we are looking at. And then ultimately it helps towards establishing the productivity solutions, which may be towards asset management, or maybe some kind of an process modeling. So we just spoke about digital twin in the previous slide, and then that can be realized. Some kind of an process optimization can be done. So these are all the benefits, when really we have this data journey completely mapped, and that's pretty important. And another angle which again I started saying, or even say, again getting a lot of data when we capture right from the subsystems or maybe shop floor devices. It is pretty important that we prevent that from the malware intrusion. And because of the current pandemic scenario, digitization has even become more, I would say, apt and then applicable. Many times customers wants to give a kind of access to their respective system from a distant location. Maybe someone probably the supplier is in India, or maybe even out of India. And in that case, people want to reach out to those particular system, and in a secured fashion carry out those remote maintenance or even diagnostic, and then make that again up and running for the plant production. So in that case, cybersecurity becomes very, very important. And this entire data journey, when we are talking about, if we also take care of cybersecurity or IT/OT convergence aspect, is going to be very, very important. And at every layer, there is a OT or even say IT security planning is going to be very, very important. So that's something probably we should always keep that in mind, when we devise a strategy like this. Another use case I wanted to speak on, the data intelligence part of it, and then how customers really, realize this. So there is a customer, probably I would not name it here, but maybe it's a southern part of India. So they had multiple plants and variety of combinations like API or biologics or even formulation facilities. And the requirement was to first have the data collated together, or at least have the data from all the nook and corners. So for example, generally people look at manufacturing data first, but in this case manufacturing plus all the utility data, so all black utility or white utilities, or even say boilers, chillers, some kind of an fire alarm panel, safety kind of an devices. It has gone also to an extent that CCTV basically, so surveillance systems, because nowadays even because of pandemic, they want to track people right there, in the plant, and see that who's working where, and how those social distancing norms are being followed. So there again, some kind of an data analytics they wanted to carry out, as well as some practices like, for example, people are wearing mask or not, or even say the gowning procedure into the facility, whether it has been done properly or not. So there are a variety of use cases which is coming out, and based on which a comprehensive requirement customer gave it to us, and then said that, can we really do all this? And of course, ultimately even the energy optimization and the data management part of it. So they had a energy consumption pattern, and then there was a kind of huge, I would say, bill, or I would say energy consumption data, which they presented to us. And then they said that we wanted to achieve at least a 3 to 5% kind of a reduction in a phase manner into this, and is it possible? And it was a long program. It was done for nearly, I would say, 6 to 8 months, because any such data management tool, when we really apply, it has to learn the data. Basically it has to be trained with the data, and then past at least, I would say, 3 to 6 months kind of a data is basically required to understand the patterns, that what kind of a pattern this particular customer is going through, and then based on which some kind of an analysis, some kind of a plotting, some kind of an remedial actions can be planned. So this was all done, in a systematic manner, where all this data was captured in real-time basis. It was organized and visualized, in the asset, or even say in a contextualized manner between various subsystems. Then, of course, on top of that, some kind of an analytics was applied to understand that where the challenges are lying, and then some kind of a predictive part of it was analyzed, or even say derived, and ultimately that was mapped along with the KPIs, business KPIs, which was planned in beginning of that particular program. For example, 3 to 5% of energy conservation, which is one of the KPI. So in that case, how this intelligence is really helping towards, seeing the gap between that 3 to 5%, and then what actions can be taken now based on this data which has been gathered. It was done, and all this data again, can be role based. So maybe maintenance persons, or even operations. I would also say to the tune of finance person, it can be done, and then all the data for the respective department can be plotted if you have the means of data, ability from all the nook and corner of the plant. So this is a kind of benefit one can realize if we have the data structure available. We have a means of kind of really manage the data throughout the I would say various layers of the plant.
Vipul, if you can wrap up this slide quickly, with time being a concern. I'm chipping in now only because there was a question on, in your entire architecture, where do you see the role for AI, expert systems, etc. So when you talk about this architecture, maybe you can talk about that. There are still a couple of other questions which we will probably take as part of the next speaker, or maybe towards the end.
Sure. So the role of AI into this architectures, this is a kind of ISA is 95 layering architecture, which talks about typically layering of the various subsystems in the plant, and how this works in an integrated, or can work in an integrated fashion. That's the kind of I would say message which I would like to give here. But coming back to the question, what you spoke about, Rajesh, on AI, that can be available at a I would say data lake layer, where the data is the box which you see on the top, where data is coming from various subsystem and various forms and factors, on which we can apply those analytics tools, and then we can do all this data mining which I spoke about. So that typically kind of gives you a facilitation of running through all these layered systems across the facility, and then you have a kind of single version of truth at top layer. So maybe just to end the session with, this is my last slide. I would like to leave you with a message that there is a difference between digitize versus a digitalization. And when we say that digitize is all about, converting the analog signals, or even say data, or rather I would say sensor data, into some kind of electronic fashion. But digitalization is one step beyond, where we are trying to give some kind of an intelligence, business intelligence in a contextual fashion and in an integrated fashion. And then that's something which we should look at. So when we want to take up a journey like this, I think first step is towards digitize, and then second step is always going to be towards digitalization. So with this, I would say I'll hand over to the next speaker, or maybe Rajesh, you can take over.
So Kahal, go ahead, Kahal, with your screen sharing.
Okay, I will do that right away here.
Kahal, I think we may have compromised you a little bit on time. If you can probably cover in 25 minutes, I think we should be okay.
Yep,
I think people got really excited talking about
sorry,
some of these.
how long should I aim for, Rajesh?
Maybe 25 minutes. 25 minutes, then we should be okay.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I can definitely cover in that. Okay, is my screen being shared?
Not yet, Kahal. No.
There is a blue screen.
Blue screen. Okay, right. That's fine. Yeah. Okay.
If you want.
Good. Okay. You can see that now. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to, for Rajesh and Sudarshan to speak here, and just for everyone in the that's on the call, this is me here, Kahal Strain.
Kahal, one thing when you cover this, there was one question on how to integrate some of the old equipment in the digitalization program. I thought that's an appropriate question, so you can weave it as part of your next few minutes of
yes. Yes.
Old equipment,
okay.
how they can be brought.
Yes, Rajesh, I will cover that, and I'll what I want to kind of introduce here as well. So it's myself here, Kahal Strain, and Sham Afzalburger here. Sham is with Performix, myself with Neo. But what I want to say is, well, Sham and I have worked together really for almost 20 years now, and while I was with Pfizer, and so really, even though I may define myself as being a technology vendor now in Neo, my main purpose, I think, and what I can hopefully bring here today is share some of the experience that I had over a 30-year career in Pfizer. Just to chemical engineer by background. Started in Pfizer making actually chemicals, 500 tons a week of citric acid and derived chemical products. And then in the early 80s, 84, 85, got the opportunity to work on Pfizer's first, highly automated small molecule API manufacturing plant. I was a shift supervisor there for several years. Ended up running that facility, and then had the good opportunity in Pfizer to build a new greenfield API plant in Puerto Rico, and followed by another very large, complex small molecule API manufacturing plant in the US here. And through those various experiences here is really what is behind what we have, what I'm going to show you and talk about here. And like I say, Sham and I have been working together on evolving some of the technologies. But so hopefully, and certainly if there are questions at the end, feel free to challenge me on any of my manufacturing background as well. But if you look at where the industry is today, and this is not just the industry in India, but it's really, I would say, a worldwide issue for pharma. We are, and I'll use the term we, I still feel very much part of pharmaceutical. We're significantly behind with the use of manufacturing technologies. Actually, Vipul, in his first slide, I think, characterized a lot of the challenges that I've faced over the years as an engineer, spending too much time extracting and aligning data. constructing isolated and inconsistent analysis tools, lack of visibility to real-time performance metrics. And that's a key one as well. I think in the industry here, and I'll hopefully get up this slide quickly, obviously we have a tremendous focus on quality, but we also have to make product efficiently and so forth. So to me, they both go hand in hand: quality, efficiency, productivity. But if you look at it, and I mentioned tech transfers here, over the years, I had the opportunity to do a lot of tech transfers from receiving into my manufacturing plant, receiving tech transfers from process R&D in Pfizer. But also, it doesn't end there. Sometimes people think of it ending when you do that initial tech transfer, but every time you move manufacturing from one equipment train to another, or from one manufacturing plant to another, it's a tech transfer. And that becomes especially more difficult when it may be a big pharma, a generic manufacturer, if you're moving to contract manufacturing. How do you manage all of the, how do you do that? Clearly, you can't do any of these things well. You can't use any of the technologies well that Vipul has been talking about and Mandar, unless you're starting with electronic. That's a basic beginning point. So that's an urgent necessity right across the industry. Now, what we're going to talk about here is how to use process PLM. That may be a new term to a lot of you, but we'll hopefully break it down a bit here. And then deploying EWI, electronic work instruction. Think of it as electronic master batch record along with PLM. That's what we're going to talk about here. So it's central to everything, but certainly central to the whole digitization of quality management. Okay, just to bring you back to, I think, some of these slides you've seen. I know when the session was introduced, I know it, some of the background here was work done by BCG. So what I'm going to talk about here spans a number of these areas, but I think this lays it out pretty well. But the areas, in, first and foremost, when we look at PLM and EWI, and this combination is going to be, is a new concept here that we're going to talk about here today. But it starts with process design, and just circle this, because simulations of potential performance. So from your process design, what do you expect to happen from all points of view on the shop floor? So we're going to talk about that. I won't call them all out here, but these are I think the key areas that the PLM, electronic work instruction combination hits, and probably a few more of them as well. But this second slide, I just want to put, and this is based on my own experience here. I think these two metrics here, I would say this is probably overstated. I think there's so much time spent in drug manufacturing in getting prepared to manufacture, creating all the necessary documentation, making all the preps, the changeover, the cleanup. There's so much preparation time associated that I just happen to believe that that's a little overstated, that metric. And I think this one's maybe a little understated. And based on the slide that Vipul showed as well in terms of deviations and so forth. But nonetheless, whatever the numbers are, we definitely want to move dramatically up this curve, or up this line. So future of work. Future work is going to change, and what I think we're going to talk a little bit more about here is how this can, and what the benefits will be of it. First of all, we've got to enhance dramatically the productivity of everybody that's associated with manufacturing. By and large, as an engineer, and I often said this to management in Pfizer, we bring young engineers, we bring young scientists into the industry, and we turn them into documentation clerks. So we got to get away from that. We got to have people working on engineering to scientific tools, be it on the design side or be it on the analytics side. Obviously, accuracy of information. We need that information flow. I think a lot of Vipul's slide showed that, and accuracy of information. What I would say here, and starting off here by saying too many paper-based, batch records. I'd have to say that over the entire career, and you know, most of that was spent in hands-on manufacturing, I don't think I ever, in terms of trying to solve a problem, be it a quality problem or a productivity problem, I don't think I ever found anything useful written on a piece of paper. Certainly we know we need that. That's what everybody's quality system is around, having signatures on paper. But in terms of real data, there's very little of value, if anything of value, that's written on paper. So accuracy of information, electronic collection of information, that has to be the future. We've got to get away from paper. Okay, just jump down through all of those. This is another key one here as well, and it speaks to the first point. How do you enhance productivity? You automate a lot of the work that highly qualified scientists and engineers are doing. And so you automate the configuration of the systems around. And because for those of you that have deployed maybe MES or DCS, you know, you spend a lot of, your people spend a lot of time configuring those, especially when you're in a multi-product manufacturing. Okay, so what is PLM? Product Lifecycle Management. It came out of discrete manufacturing. None of you would think of, you know, driving a car today that wouldn't have been designed on a CAD system. And so what we're saying here is the life cycle in drugs begins with developing process, scaling up. Those of you that are involved perhaps in, you know, with inventing drugs, the initial process is developed in R&D. We got to design, scale up, we got to manufacture, and then we got to analyze. Now we analyze for fundamental purpose, review batches, investigate any deviations, and release it to the marketplace. But arguably, there's a bigger reason. Well, that's not. Let's say that's the most important thing. Make sure you got quality product at the market. But you have to run a business as well. So you want to be able to do advanced analysis. Some people have mentioned artificial intelligence and machine learning and all the rest. We'll talk a little bit about that down the road here. But this is where, again, back to the beginning, quality, efficiency, productivity, they all go together, and it's really, we want to get to this level here. But if we go back to the beginning of the circle, yes, we develop at a lab scale, we design, simulate, we scale up, we got to fit it to a plant, create production schedules. We got a lot of work here preparing batch instructions. So today, there's a ton of tools that our engineers and scientists use, very little integration. Practically every step of the path here, and believe me, I've lived probably in every step around the circle here, is a handover of documents and spreadsheets. And the future is you're going to put right in the center. You're going to harmonize and integrate everything around a design simulation. Process design, so think of a chemical process, if it's small molecule, a biological process, a large molecule, or gene therapy, or whatever. You're going to define that in a digital way, just like the discrete manufacturers define their products, even the conference room table that I'm sitting at here, in a CAD system. No more just hand drawing, which is effectively what our paper-based systems are pretty much. You're going to put all of this science, engineering, and process knowledge right across the life cycle on a digital platform. And then you're going to try and execute that design quickly, immediately, in an electronic work instruction. Now, you've heard me use this term EWI a number of times. I want to, because you're probably more familiar with hearing MES, and I'm sure some of you out there have deployed the conventional MES systems. You know, and that's well and good here, but to me, there has been a challenge. MES, I saw my first MES system back in 1986. And I thought this is going to actually hamper innovation in pharmaceuticals. Now, here we are, quite a number of years on, I won't even count them up. Many of the pharmaceutical shop floors are still using paper-based MBRs. And why is that? Well, anybody I've talked to that's deployed MES, I did say at the beginning here that all of the plants that I had the good opportunity to run and build and take through commissioning and startup and FEA inspections and so forth, all of them were highly automated. So the plants that I built and operated were not so dependent on MES systems. But the MES systems traditionally are difficult to deploy, but difficult to support. When you're in typical drug manufacturing, where it's small volume manufacturing, it's multi-product. Very few of us have the luxury of building a plant and making the same product year in, year out. So you have to be very flexible, and this has been one of the challenges. Also, if you like, the focus of MES, and I would say the focus of the industry in general, and I think unfortunately it's been driven initially, by the regulatory authorities, particularly the FDA here, but it's really, in a sense, had a limited vision of paper on glass. In other words, take that paper MBR and put it on glass. To me, that's a limited vision. So I believe a new approach is needed that will obsolete the conventional MES as we see it here. So what we're saying, you take the process design and which is the PLM contains both the design side and the analytics side, and you make the shop floor simply an electronic work instruction where you're capturing, the absolute information that you do not capture from other sources. You really want to be building out. And to the question, Rajesh, that you gave me at the beginning there, the slide that we saw there on BCG earlier talks about, the level 4 being lights out manufacturing. That's a long way in the future for most pharmaceutical companies. So how do you get from where you are today, which for most of you, I think, is going to be largely paper-based, and how do you stepwise? We're going to talk a little bit more in the diagrams here. But the whole idea here is really centering everything around design, just like all of discrete manufacturing is centered around the CAD definition, the 3D modeling tools, simulation, and so forth. And then just from that design, just drop a recipe into, or an MBR into an electronic work instruction. And we'll talk some more about all of that. And I think this is the beginning. It doesn't conflict at all. This concept doesn't conflict. It integrates with everything that Mandar talked about in the beginning, Vipul talked about there. So what we're just doing is replacing all of those paper-based processes today, all the way from R&D through kilo labs. If you think of typical small molecule thing, it goes from the process, the chemistry lab to the kilo. You're making small size for clinical manufacture, pilot maybe for phase 3, into in-house manufacturing, contract manufacture. So the whole thing about PLM is not just about creating a recipe for an individual production in any one of these places here, but also connecting the dots all the way so that you could be making, and that's what we're trying to, you could be making a process 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road in a contract manufacturer or one of your own plants, and you can digitally connect, we call this the contract manufacturing operations batch, to a production that was done in an R&D lab many years ago. You would have the context. So this is central to PLM. It's maintaining that lineage, the genealogy, as you go right through the life cycle. Oops, I went backwards there. And so the whole idea here is that not only you maintain that lineage, but as you go from one place to the next, all of your tech transfers occur by tech transferring a digital design. Not a bunch of documents, a bunch of spreadsheets, transfer a digital design of the process. Okay, so simply, and this is, this is a slide that I presented, to Pfizer in the late 90s, or actually 2001, and saying, here's what we want to do, because by that time we had implemented, I would say, which was probably the first fully electronic batch record system in our new plant that we built in the US in the late 90s. And I had the good fortune of having to lead the team through an FEA inspection that lasted 6 weeks. But we basically showed this slide and we said, look, what we want to do here is design processes, plan production, drop the recipe into an electronic MBR, measure and collect data, I would say, and again to that question, we're going to talk here about, you got to measure, you got to add more instrumentation over time. It can be done in a stepwise and on a gradual basis here. But the only data that's of any use really is electronically measured data, whether it's on the shop floor, from the lab. And put all that together, pull that data up from the shop floor, correlated with the design, correlated with your production plan. Don't want to miss it, because not only do we want to make it by quality by design, but we want to make sure we're making it as fast as we expected. And that becomes our analysis framework. So up top, you design, plan, you analyze. Down below, you execute. And it's simply define what to do what you defined, hopefully, but measure it. You can only prove what you measure, you can only improve what you measure. And then check, did you do what you said? Now, quite honestly, a lot of the time we don't. And so that's why you want all of this integrated. Okay, so we've actually, I mentioned there, I presented that slide, it happens to be an older slide, around about 2000, 2001. What I was going to Pfizer and said, we need to build this concept. We have done very well at the automation side. A lot of our plants were highly automated. Now, I will say also, as I was, in the earlier part of the century and responsible for Pfizer's API manufacturing network worldwide, we had quite a number of plants as well that needed to be taken from a very manual paper-based approach. So I've done both ends of it here. So this is not just for highly automated. This is something that can be done even from where you're starting today. But these were, if we looked across, and we deployed this at actually multiple sites, these are the kind of improvements that we measured. And it's just based on taking away the amount of time that's spent on creating documents, on to Vipul's point again, to extracting information from systems, from paper, and trying to put it together and do analysis. They're actually huge. I mean, I think this one was especially important here. When it got to a deviation, when you have a nicely integrated platform, tremendous reduction in time to actually do quality deviations. They're pretty much done in real time.
Carl, you may want to mention about the FDA audit in this plant. So,
Yeah, Shyam. Actually, yeah, I was going to summarize that at the end there. Yeah, okay, so I'll get back to that.
That's fine. That's fine.
We'll get back to that.
Right.
So to talk about that future lifestyle vision, yes, that's a multi-year aspiration. It's a nice aspiration to have. I think it's definitely possible, but how do you even start to get there? I believe you can quickly, and you can follow a similar path to what we followed in Pfizer there. So if I haven't said it once here, I've said it many times here, but you got to transform all of your science and engineering onto that digital platform. Implement this light concept. It's not this heavy MES that you're used to. It's a light. It's to run immediately. The electronic work instruction is driven, and like I said, Shyam and I have worked on this concept. We've actually just proved it out very recently in an old facility here in the US, 16 manufacturing plants, paper-based. Anyway, this is where you can start to transform. So we're taking a step off paper, not just taking your shop floor off paper, but taking your science engineers. And this is where you start to get a whole lot more value out of your people, science engineers and shop floor personnel. Design-based coupled with EWI. And so if you think product lifecycle management, it's about putting your process, you often hear the term digital twin. it's kind of the first part of that digital twin is digitally defining your process. It's a chemical engineering design tool to design your process. Second half, the twin is taking up the data from the shop floor, to my mind, and connecting it with that design. So how do we do this here? So we start with a design tool. This is structured. Any of you that are chemical engineers out there, you'd pick up this tool here, and within half an hour, you'd know what it's all about. You drop the recipe, which just goes right out of the design into the EWI. Now we're into the shop floor world here. We still want, of course, the paper. Everybody still feels comfortable. So also automatically out of the design, we create a paper, or it can be paper, or it can be a PDF on glass, whatever you want it to be. But the key tool of execution on the shop floor is now your EWI. You can use this as supporting. Obviously, you use the design to do your planning. I never want to forget about planning. The plant that I was referring to earlier there makes upwards of 90 to 100 different products a year. So you need to be thinking about that as well. Now from the design as well, you send your accurate design-based, digital design-based bill of materials automatically to ERP. How many of our ERP systems are not updated in real, as things change? It's always a challenge when you're manually updating these systems to have them up to date with the latest and greatest information. While you're executing then, send, again, light electronic work instructions, just get those process action, get the events, when do they happen, and so forth, and simultaneously send the process order events up into ERP. And this then gives you, initially, your fundamental electronic batch record. In other words, everything that today you would write on this piece of paper here, you now have up here in total electronic format. Over time then, obviously distributed control systems, PLCs, and I'm sure they're like the level 2 on Vipul's slide talks to, islands of automation. I'm sure a lot of you have that, and I'm sure a lot of you have LIMS as well. So again, wherever information, but I will point here, shop floor instrumentation. To me, there is absolutely no point in an operator logging every half hour what the temperature in the reactor is. What you want is get the time window from the process action events as to when that heat up or distillation or reflux or whatever it is taking place, and then query an electronic temperature measurement instrument. That's really the future you want to get to. Collect all that history electronically, and now this adds, when I built the slide first, we were talking about this piece here. Now you're adding a whole lot more rich measurement into the system. You don't necessarily have to get to that fully complex recipe-based automation yet. I would definitely say that's an aspiration, but collecting that data, you now have an even richer batch analytics environment. This then opens the door. We're hearing a lot today, and even some of the slides, as Mandar was talking there about the cloud strategy. The technologies are now kind of advancing significantly to take all of this data up into the cloud. So not even thinking now just of a local plant utilization of this data, but making it available to your enterprise. The cloud technologies open the door to that, but you really can't, there is no point in just dumping a ton of information from systems like this if you don't have the context, and that was central of Vipul's second to last slide, the context, the design of the process. Simply put, the temperature measurement that maybe I have got coming from my reactor, if I pump that straight up into this cloud here, it's meaningless unless I know not just even what production was running in that reactor at the time, but what part of the process was running. And so you have to have that context, and that's really what we're opening the door to in the future. And so let's just to kind of, I would say, if you're running a paper shop today, this is what I would start with. Get your design going. This can be pretty much set up and run system that we don't get a chance to talk about in detail here today, but it's ready to use out of the box. EWI gets ready configured, and you can very quickly deploy this in a phase 1. Then over time, deploy more and more of this, and then as your final phase, I always call it phase 3, you start connecting all this into the wonderful cloud technologies that are available today. So steps: move your definition to the digital design. If you remember anything from my 20 minutes here, it's moving on to digital design. Then make sure you're extending that all the way from, you can start right in a manufacturing plant, but some of the big farmers we're talking to today, we're starting this concept back in their process R&D. Move away from the conventional MES. Concept to a simpler, lighter, quicker to deploy electronic work instruction. Think of it just electronic MBR, and then connect up the thing. And I think this thing can be deployed. Not saying you just kind of plug and play, but if you go about it, you can be in a reasonable amount of time here up and running this concept. And then over time, like we said on the other slide, build out more and more. And to that question, how do you get, this is really a replacement of paper, both of your engineering and science, replacement of paper on the shop floor, and EWI being light MES. And then over time, you can gradually, or as fast as you want, improve your measurement, and then ultimately into control. I think there's tremendous, opportunities. I think it's been mentioned a couple of times here that the pandemic here will accelerate the need for change. I'm already seeing that as we're talking. So many of the customers we're working with right now, everybody we're working with is a remote worker. And I don't think that's going to change. And so how do you think of support personnel, maybe your process engineers, production engineers even, working a lot of time remotely? How are you going to give them access to what's going on in your plants? Pretty much you could say that, and I know some of the plants that we're working with right now, it is only their direct operations personnel that are actually in the plants. And obviously, not sure how much you're hearing about it over in India here, but here in the US, you're hearing a lot about how the big pharmas and so forth are going to reshape their supply chain. So that's and Shyam, this is the point I mentioned earlier. Yeah. There's a strong possibility, we're already reading about it, that regulators will require manufacturers to enable remote inspections. And that is a point that Shyam was asking me to mention there. In the plants that I was alluding to earlier, when an FDA inspector goes into that plant, they're given access to a terminal to look directly. And this gets down to, I think the industry is going to have to move a whole lot greater level of transparency. Whether you're in the ethical pharma world or whatever, or in your contract manufacturing, the level of transparency is really not there today, and largely driven by the fact that so much paper-based. And I think the technologies are there, and so that's what I want to finish up on. Hopefully I didn't consume too much of my time or over time there.
Kyle, thanks for this. There are a whole bunch of questions waiting for you. Unfortunately, I'm not able to post them right now because Srikanth has already shortchanged a lot as far as time is concerned. So I have collated the questions. We will see how much time we have in the back end. But Srikanth, please go ahead. Do you want me to present, Srikanth, or are you presenting yourself?
I can present it, no problem. I just need to start sharing the screen. So thank you, everybody. I think it's a great session. I myself is also enjoying. Slideshow going. Here we go. Just give me 1 second. Thank you, Mr. Jain, Mr. Belapure, for getting this started, and appreciate you organizing this great event for people to enjoy time. Thank you, BCG team. I think this was a great and very valuable assessment. I think we ourselves as a partner learned a lot from this, and where there are gaps and where we can add value. Thank you, Rajesh, Mandar, and all the other speakers. So today, I'm going to talk about the asset management, and we'll cover a few other topics along with that, how they are helpful. Get me to the, okay. So real quick, this is how I look like, in case if we bump each other anywhere. I think it's important in the current situation where we are. And I'm working with into the digital transformation and SAP space since 1995. Before that, I used to work for manufacturing, chemical, petrochemical industries. Our organization got involved with life sciences for last 10 years, and it's been a pleasure and enjoyable ride. So the way I have structured this conversation is I'm probably going to go one level below and talk about specific solutions and specific examples that are available for you to take advantage. And I'm using this slide. I actually like this slide very much. Using this slide as a guideline and talk about which are the areas which are highlighted as where people need help, and see how we can align them with what's available in the marketplace. So first is the asset performance and automation. So these are the areas which are identified: trigger-based maintenance, condition monitoring and predictive maintenance, AI breakdown assist, process automation, suite simulator, and minor stop elimination. These are the areas which are identified where there is a need for improvement. And just to help you, what I'm going to do is I have a slide which talks about the total journey of the asset management. As we all know that different organizations are in a different state of asset management. There are some of organizations that are still on paper. There are some who are in a semi-automatic process. They have a system which takes care of maintenance or asset management, but not fully integrated with financials, inventory, and MES systems. And there are some who are using ERP, but they are not still into the digital transformation, so capturing details on the shop floor. So we'll walk through what are the different options. So first is, of course, we need a system of record, right? And what do we want to do? We want to capture the bill of materials, spares. We want to process the orders correctly. We want to make sure our equipments are calibrated effectively. We want to maintain the equipment master. So equipment means everything you have, your assets. We want to make sure the breakdowns are captured correctly, corrective maintenance, facility maintenance. So these are different activities. We want to capture them correctly. And one of the tools which can help to achieve that is an ERP system, right? So if you have everything at one place, which is basically inventory, procurement, your financials, your asset registry, so that asset can be from the financial perspective or asset can be from the maintenance and processing perspective. Once you have that in place, then you start data acquisition phase. So basically, you're making sure that you are capturing data which is going to help you to do the maintenance effectively, because ultimate goal is to improve the lives of the assets and achieve the operational excellence. So here, one of the ways to do is IoT. And of course, IoT is a big buzzword and it can be done with many ways, but IoT can be as simple as getting the data from your SCADA PLCs, or it can be you have some specialized sensors installed on your shop floor and you capture those details. Another way is field mobility. Now, this is where we are talking about digitization on the shop floor or in the workplaces, where you enable your completion process by mobility. They can be working offline, because most of the pharma and life sciences plants have a lot of restrictions where you cannot have Wi-Fi connectivity. So offline is always desirable. You would like to have it real time connected, so that whenever the transactions are happening, you know what's the inventory at that moment of time, whether this is available or not. And if there are any challenges, people should be able to react to it. Excuse me. Real-time updates, and also you would like to get the labels printed, so your people are not going back to the office and get a label printed, come back to the shop floor, attach it. You don't know what happens in between. So you want those labels to be printed so you are basically capturing the data at the source. And that's where the mobility comes into picture. The third area is, and which is now coming into great importance, if you are into medical devices or another side of the life sciences than the pharma, this is very important for you, because you want to make sure that the equipments you produce, they are tracked. There is a same view of the information set between you, your distributor, your consumers. Everybody sees the similar information, and you are able to manage. So if there is a recall, everybody should know there is a problem, and you want to have a intelligent network. Now, this can also go with the pharma and the manufacturing team, because you are getting equipments, very critical and important equipments from your vendors, and you can utilize if there is an asset intelligent network in place. The third aspect of the data acquisition, now once you have the data ready, you want to utilize that data for proper analytics, so that you can make the right decisions. How do we do that? I have captured the completion of my orders. I know what's going on through the IoT. I know where my assets are, and they are healthy, what they are from, who is giving them, and all that stuff. Now I want to start analyzing the failure mode analysis, because I have the data now. Now there are many mechanisms available, right? Reliability centered maintenance, FMEA, RBI, RCA, and I would like to have a system which is most suitable for my processes, right? So that's where there are tools available like asset strategy and performance management. They will help you to do this kind of analysis. Now, once you have that analysis, you know what are the failure modes, you know what needs to be done, so that now what we are doing is we are going from reactive to the predictive maintenance. And that's where the predictive analytics comes into picture. Here we are forecasting the predictability of failure, potential failure. This can be your pumps, your valves, it can be your reactors, it can be anything which can be monitored and predicted. So finally, once we have all that in place, we have to take the corrective actions. And that's where we need a mechanism by which we can predict those corrections. They need to go to the right people. The system should know who is the right person to take this. There has to be approval process in place, and you capture the right measurement, define the measurement bands. So this is kind of an end-to-end flow to get you to a level where you are moving from the traditional way of maintenance into the predictability maintenance. Now let's talk about why this is so important. This is a chart, and thanks to Rajesh. This is we got it from US FDA. So between 2018, October 2018 and September 2019, there are so many 483s or citations issued. And when you look at most of them, they're all related to the data capture. So they're all related to the 21 CFR Part 11 and 21 CFR Part 211. And I don't have to teach or explain what these are, but basically 21 CFR Part 11 is about validation, audit trail, legacy systems, copies of record, and record retention. And so does the I'm sorry, this is the typo. This is part 211. Now, how do we mitigate these while we are working? So I'm going to talk about one use case. Of course, we work with several pharma and life sciences companies globally, especially in India. So at one of the large pharma organization in India, we have implemented, they are using preventive maintenance, facility maintenance, calibration, and also warehouse management. So I'm just going to giving you a glimpse of some of the screens and how they can be intuitive. But this is the extension. So of course, in the ERP, plant maintenance and quality management is very strong with SAP. And now you need help to extend them on the mobility, where you can satisfy your regulatory requirements, your proper reports. So, and that's where we come into picture, working with SAP. And we have several solutions into this specific area, which has helped all of our customers to not only mitigate the citations and the challenges they face on day to day, but also meet their internal process improvement and the digital transformation goals. So these are the different, and what we did is we basically mapped these different citations. Let me get this off. I think it's just coming on the way. To different applications which are available for you to choose from. So this is the calibration, change control management. I'm going to talk more about that. Ahu filter management. So keeping the quality of the air within your plant is equally important for you to have a quality outcome. And there is a huge requirement around Ahu filter management, means the life cycle of the filter. How many times they can be reused, which pairs can be reused, and there are several validation, and it's very obvious and subject to any manual errors. And that's where, if you have a system which is barcode enabled, which is mobile enabled, and keeps track of all the validations which are required, I think it completely eliminates those errors. It's not only about the error, but allowing your people or allowing anybody to be able to work in that. So that's also related to the knowledge base. You might have people with different knowledge base. You might have people with different skill sets. You might have people who do not know all the regulations. You want to make sure that everybody is equally efficient, and that's where this helps. And finally, the intelligent asset management, where you have several options available to automate this digitization on the shop floor or the workplaces. This is just, I'm going to browse through this slide, but 46% of US pharma companies have been issued warning letters for gaps in regulatory compliance and document. We all know that, right? So this is one application which just a couple of highlights I'll mention. The challenges our customers facing is that they wanted something which can be used by internal calibration engineers and also external. They wanted to make sure that the equipment covers the master equipment thought process, single or multiple, and it should have a configurable workflow. The same application should allow the internal team members, so engineers, the process, and the quality to be able to do it from the same handle, so they don't have to go to 10 places, and this application allows them to do that. Same here with the Ahu filter maintenance. I will skip because I already talked about it. And then once you have that in place, you have an opportunity to take it to the next level with RPA, UI, UX, augmented reality, and bots. So there are applications available whereby you can embed your maintenance instructions. You see on the left-hand side. What I'm talking, yeah, right-hand side. There is a there are clear-cut instructions. These can be videos. These can be data sheets, and they can be downloaded wherever they are, so that again comes back to the knowledge base. The goal is for anybody with any level of skill should be able to do the work efficiently with and make those tools available to them. We have now applications where the bots are integrated, so you can say what is the mean time between failure for this equipment, and system will tell you that. You don't have to even go and type it. So we can take your workforce to that level. This is a very interesting diagram which talks about how different new generation technologies are linked to what we as a human being do, right? So there is a thinking is a machine learning, listen and speak is conversational AI or chatbots, and AI is at the heart, and then robotic process automation is the execute. So I'm going to just spend a couple minutes about robotic RPA. So in the RPA, SAP, and there are a lot of RPA tools available, as you know, but especially with SAP, SAP has acquired an RPA company a couple years back and provided very good integration with the SAP backend. So whatever we had to do before with any other tools, now you don't have to do that. All that integration piece is already taken care of. You have most of the integration is available through most of the modules, which wherever necessary. And this is just a list of some of them which are available out of the box. So especially in financial, like fast financial closing, manual efforts and optimize resources, resource optimization. In case of creation of purchase order, creation of purchase request, GL confirmations, and there are so many processes available out of the box, and I think they are ready. The big advantage which we have seen with the RPA is you can do a lot of stuff without integrating, because a lot of times whenever there is an integration involved with any ERP system, people eyebrows goes up because they don't know how much expensive this is going to be or how much difficult it's going to be. More than expense, it's a difficulty. You have to go through testing, you got to have the whole process. That's basically RPA takes it away. Because it's a screen-based process, you can do it quicker. Means we have RPA projects done in a couple weeks, depends upon the use case, and helps to bring that benefit quicker and faster, because that's what everybody is looking for. Let's talk about the warehouse and the robots. So in this automated warehouse section, warehouse automation, consumable and spare parts, then utility analytics and control, indirect material science. These are the areas where there is still room for improvement. And this is the warehouse maturity model. If you look at, there are 5 phases of this warehouse maturity model. Improve operations, connect workers, integrate, be responsive, and predict and adapt. Most of the organizations currently are between 2 and 3, phase 2 and 3. So that's basically, some of them have still paper-based processes, so they are between 1 and 2. Some has some integration already in place. They have RF devices on the shop floor so that people can do the goods in and out transactions. But still there is a long way to go. You can look at this slide when we share and see where you are and how you can get to the next level. But I'm going to walk you through one success story. So I'm sure most of your plants probably look like this. And you want to get to a level where you can barcode enable your materials or plants so that you can avoid all those mistakes. These are your MRO spares. This is another area where you have huge amount of inventory items, but they are not huge cost because they are not mainstream into the manufacturing. And now they are causing a lot of challenge. And we have seen companies focusing on automating or barcode enabling them, making sure you have the tracking for those parts, and label printing, because now the regulatory agencies are asking for those details. And you can use very simple and cost-effective mobile applications to track and carry out those transactions at the source, so that so your inventory is maintained correctly, you know what is where, and you have all the information available on the floor. And also you can have audit reports which you can directly submit to the regulatory authorities. I'm going to walk you through. So this is just I wanted to give you a glimpse of how your user interface can be with the different technologies available at your hand. I mean, I remember those green screen, blue screen devices used to be there in the old days. They are still there. They're out there. But this is where you can take your user group, and it's not about just the system, but they should also love to use the system at the same time. So here, I'm going to walk you through our vision for the warehouse management. So first is end-to-end warehouse ERP solution, and SAP definitely helps with that. There are multiple options available. If you are on ECC, you have warehouse management currently, that's fine. You can have embedded EWM, and there are many benefits going with the EWM. And then finally, if you're on using cloud, then you have embedded EWM on the cloud. So you have multiple options available from SAP's ERP stack. Once you have that in place, you would like to go and barcode enable, so that you can minimize the errors happening on the shop floor when people do that. Or you can RFID enable them. If somebody is taking out of the shop floor without permission, it will tell you. It will also tell you where it is located. These are all affordable technologies now. Once you decide one of those, now you need a system and an application which can help you to carry out all the transactions. So those are basically inbound, outbound, cycle counting, internal transfer, and printing the labels. And all these transactions can be for storage and operation, transit, cross-docking warehousing, distribution warehousing, or production warehousing, doesn't matter. Once you have designed that, you need to have an application. There are a lot of applications which are available off the shelf, or you can enhance them or develop them. And then select the right hardware. It's very important, because you need to be able to find out right hardware for the right use case. And then you will have an application. So there are applications available. They are developed cross-platform, and they work on any platform you might have. Once you have the application in place, then you talk about next generation of automation, which is forklift. So if you have need for forklift or anything which is basically robotic, there are quick integration available with SAP now. So we talked about barcode, RFID, QR code enablement, forklift integration. Not only that, now there are tools available whereby you can do the indoor routing. So you can have routes defined inside your warehouse or inside your plants, so people know where to go. So there are indoor directions. If you want to go even one step further, you have hands-free picking options available using wearable devices, mobile computing devices, and finger scanners. So these are all, when I go back to, I said you have to select right hardware for right use case. That's very important in those cases. And finally now is the augmented reality. So you have smart glasses which tells people where to go, what to pick, and where it is available. So this is kind of a one-page discussion about where you can take the warehouse from where you are. Now, the next is the control tower. There are, I'm going to talk about a couple of examples. So change control management. So this we have also encountered that this is a big challenge for a lot of organizations. Most of the pharma organization, they are life sciences, they do this. This is critical for your success. You have to track every change, whether it's a physical parameter or a process change. And that needs to be tracked until the closure. A lot of them happens on paper, some of them happen through Excel sheet, but there is no specific process available. And here, I think there are options available with SAP working with Crave Infotech. There are now tools through our partner network where you have a change control management process, which will basically help you to document or create master for different changes, possible changes, who is responsible for that, define workflow, and then track the changes, bring reports, who is working on which, who took how much time. So there is a complete accountability through the whole workflow. The another big advantage of this is, again, going back to the knowledge base. In every organization, there are only few key people who knows what the rules and regulations are, and they become sometimes bottleneck because they have personal emergencies and things doesn't move, or availability. That all is embedded into this workflow. So system automatically, as soon as you say there is a problem of this type, it will tell you, okay, this is the problem. Okay, this is in this plant. This is the group of people who are responsible for first level. Then after that, this is the second level. And it gives you complete menu of what needs to be done. So we have seen a couple of our current customers are highly benefited through this. And again, this application works on everything, whether it's a mobile or a tablet or a desktop, doesn't matter. So they can do it from wherever they are. Another one is the e-logbook. So e-logbook is a big concern on shop floor and everywhere now, because you want to make sure that details are captured effectively and they are communicated, the follow-up tasks are happening in time. And we have worked with SAP several solutions where we can help to automate the whole e-logbook, not only the capturing process, but also the workflow, utilizing the backend very effectively. This is another solution taking you to the supplier network. So your vendors, and vendors can basically complete everything end to end electronically. So that includes uploading the invoices, creating of ASN, knowing when they are getting paid. So you can reduce basically 90% of the call coming from vendor and asking for all those questions to your buyer, so that your buyer can spend more time in finding the right vendor than spending time asking the questions of the existing vendor. There is a solution from SAP about the cold chain regulatory compliance. If you have a need, definitely, I'm sure we all can talk about that. I'm going to skip through this. Then the last area we wanted to talk about is the org of the future. So unfortunately, we are in a very difficult situation because of the COVID. Most of the organization haven't been able to get back to the operations unless you are critical, especially the manufacturing. So people are working from home, and we need mechanism to be able to communicate with them effectively, to be able to manage our day-to-day operations effectively. So we have some offerings around this which can help. So these are the different areas where employee performance, income tax declaration. So today, I believe most of the organization, their employees submit their paperwork manually. So it's a hard copy. Somebody has to keep track of it. Somebody has to evaluate them. Now we can go away from that. We have a solution which will allow you to basically 100% go away from it. People can upload electronic copies of their IT declaration. We are also taking it to the next level with OCR. We can identify or scan some of those documents, which are standard documents, and be able to get that information. There's a workflow by which you validate those. And once everything is done, then you update into SAP. So basically all the manual work you do is completely automated. Same with the employee claim, training confirmation, referral payments, performance improvement plan. These are all available for you to carry out through on the go. Basically, we say on the go. And these are just the screenshots of those, how they look like. I know we are short of time, but finally, I wanted to leave you guys that we talked about some of these areas where how you can achieve your automation with quick wins. So where we come into picture along with SAP is we bring you solutions which are basically ready to go. Typically, they meet anywhere from 60 to 90% of your requirement, and rest all we achieve through configuration and customization. This is a complete catalog. So if you look at this list of applications, we have solutions built together with SAP for almost every department or business unit you might have. And we'll be happy to talk about that whenever you have opportunity. This is a little bit about us. And Rajesh, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Srikanth. Actually, thanks, Kahal, thanks, Srikanth, thanks, Vipul.